Hello, everybody. Welcome to my ABC dry firing white belt or very beginner level dry firing procedure. My dry fire schedule, maybe my dry fire guide. Many words to describe the same thing, which is going to be a trend throughout my life. I think lots of words. So first things first. Four fundamentals of dry fire. Know the condition of the firearm at all times. This includes checking the mag well and the chamber to make sure you have a clear and safe firearm. This includes knowing that your magazines are either unloaded or they have a dummy round like mine do, or they are fake, such as this one, and cannot accept ammunition. Uh, I recommend having at least one magazine that stays empty. You can use it when you go to the range. Just load it up when you get to the range and unload it, like leave it unloaded at home. And then the one problem I have with these snap points, and I don't know if they offer different options, it's been a while since I've ordered them, is that this is not obviously fake. Besides, it has a blue primer. So, but some people use blue bullets. I know, like Barry's blue bullets. I don't personally use those. I use outdoordynamics.net, and he just uses like regular color bullets. Shout out John Royer, outdoordynamics.net. I'm not paid by him, or I don't get anything for free. Uh, I do use code, I think it's Anderson or something, for a discount. You can use that code too. You listen to Steve Anderson's podcast, or go comment on Steve Anderson's videos. Maybe he'll tell you what his code is. I forgot. It's been a while since I've ordered ammo. Anywho, that's kind of another point. You might hear a lot of things here that are very similar to Steve Anderson's. You might hear some differences. I Everything I know about dry fire is crumbs from Steve Anderson's table. I'll be the first to admit that. Uh, so there might be some similarities. Don't think I'm copycatting him, because I'm giving him credit. That there's some things here that I think are different. I see things a little bit differently than him. I think he's old enough to be my dad. So, or pretty. I think he's. I think he is. He's got to be. I think he's roughly 50ish years old, and yeah, that'd be old enough to be my dad. So, shout out Steve. He may think that's funny. Uh, anyways, so we know the condition of our firearm at all times. We know the condition of our magazines, and we take anything that has ammo, including ammo itself, and put it in a different area. We're aware of the target and what's beyond it. Like, I know there's nothing besides wilderness on that wall, so I'm aware of what's beyond that target is wilderness. For you, some people use a gun safe because you really can't shoot it through a gun safe. Even though you know the gun is unloaded, you have checked it, and you constantly check it. Like every time you pull the trigger and you reset it, do a press check, you should still be pointing it in a direction that if you were to discharge a round, would not cause serious injury or property damage. And don't blame me if you cause either of those things. Finger off the trigger until you're ready to fire, same as live fire. If you're not aimed on an acceptable sight picture, your finger needs to, at a minimum, be off the trigger. If you're moving, it definitely needs to be up on the frame rail of the gun. Keep the firearm pointed in a safe direction. Again, same as live fire, same as a competition. 180-degree rule. You need to burn that into your brain so that when you go into a competition, it's subconscious that you just don't turn around with the gun. I recommend full-size targets, especially starting out. And I like these taped up targets because that's what you're going to see at a match. Learn to pick a small spot on a big target, and picking a small spot on a small target becomes very easy. I'm not going to go too much into detail about picking small spots, but like, you don't try to learn on expert difficulty. Learn on easy. Like, that makes the most sense, and you'd be shocked how many people start with 1/3 and 1/6 targets. Me, I'm one of those people, and I think everybody has. You can see some back there. It's like, but I'm not a beginner anymore. And I still don't use the. I actually put those up to date because I'm going to kind of go back to jacking around with them and see if they have any validity at this point in my shooting career, but for the last while, I've been on full size targets. I just cut the D zone off of them to make them a little bit bigger. Um, kind of on that, you have to give up on the thought of getting faster and more accurate. Accuracy is something you can train, and we're going to talk about some drills to help train that in dry fire and in live fire. Once you get to an acceptable level of accuracy, then the key difference is speed. It's like if you can shoot two alphas, but you do it in 5 seconds, this person does it in a second and a half or 1 second. Um, you know, it's two alphas. They just did it much faster. Don't worry about messing up. My expectation is that you mess up. At this level, you shouldn't really be pushing yourself to like the limit. If you're using this video and using this guide, that it will be linked in the description. Like you should, you know, you're just learning. You're not learning to do it quickly. You're just learning to do it at this point, and you're still gonna fail. If you knew how to do it, you'd already be doing it. You wouldn't be watching this video. Um, you need to think about dry fire as visual and mental exercise, not just shooting practice. That's why people get really hung up on trigger pulls. I'll talk about trigger pulls in that drill, but they're very unimportant in dry fire. It's not something that like needs a ton of time. Once you can do it, it's like, okay, it's a maintenance item. It's not something that you should spend a bunch of time improving, because you can only pull the trigger straight back. It's like, did you pull it straight back? Yes or no. Did the sights move when you pulled the trigger? Yes or no. Great. Then I have some dry fire gimmicks and tools down there, my opinions of them. And this is a Google document, so um, this instruct very beginner level probably won't change much, but if you notice some of the verbiage changes from how I'm saying it now to whenever you get on it, I may have adjusted some verbiage. So low ready to presentation. What is success? Finding sights on the A zone. How long should this take you? 1 minute of work followed by 30 seconds of rest for 3 repetitions for a total of 4.5 minutes. You can go down to 3 minutes, like depending on how much time you have to do all this. That is 4.5, 9, 18, 27, roughly 30-ish minutes of dry fire. If you only have 15 minutes, you know, you can cut it down. Especially on the rest part, that would be one where it's like, okay, go to 45 seconds and then 15 seconds of rest, because these are not like very intense drills. So, low ready to presentation. There's a target there. I'm going to have the gun pointed at the target's feet, and then I'm going to aim at the target. And then I can go finger on trigger as the sight is coming up onto the target. Uh, because here you don't have a sight picture, you're not prepared to shoot, shouldn't be finger on the trigger. Here, like, you should be prepared to shoot, or at least like you should be ready. And then trigger pull is not important. Like, you can just prep the trigger. I think prepping the trigger at this point is important. You should learn the skill of being able to be on the trigger without pulling through the wall. But then if you're going to, no, okay, take a step back. So you're here. If the dot does not come up in focus, your number one goal, whether it's iron sights or red dots, is finding the sights on the A zone. So you're here, you come up, your finger goes onto the trigger, you hunt for the dot until you find it. And it's like, okay, there's the dot. It is on. I use the term A zone. What I'm meaning is just the center of the target. And then it's like, and then if you can say, great, sight picture acquired, I have achieved success, put the gun down and restart. You can pull the trigger uh, if you have an acceptable sight picture. So number two, Burkett reloads. There's a video that explains it that I have linked that is better than I could explain it. I will explain it very briefly. Your definition of success is getting the magazine in your hand and to the gun correctly. What do I mean by that? Is whether you're getting the magazine from a belt or off a table, your index finger, excuse me, is going to the tip of the bullet where you're holding it like this, and then you are getting it into the gun. So this is all fine motor skill. Once you get to here, it becomes gross motor skill. So that's why the Burkett reload. The Burkett reload is just practicing the fine motor skill part of it. You can like do the full reload. Like there's nothing wrong with that. I think I practice that. I used to do a bunch of Burkett reloads where I would just stop here. And then here lately I've been doing a bunch of full reloads. Um, Big thing kind of the key parts would be one, make sure you're mashing the crap out of the mag release every time you do it. You don't need to be dropping a magazine unless in live fire the magazine is not coming out. Then you should probably practice dropping magazines. If you don't have that problem, you're going to do way more reps if you're not having to bend over and pick a magazine up every time. Two, so it's eyes on target, eyes to the mag well, and notice how the gun was staying on a plane where just my eyes can move. I don't have to move my whole head. I'm not bringing it down here. It's like this would be called the workspace, so that you're here and you can go eyes back to the target if you have to. So that as soon as it gets here, your eyes are goes back to the target and you're snapping there. Right hand only presentation is exactly the same as the low ready to presentation, but said you're going to do it right hand only. Again, your level of success is finding your sights right hand only. So it's finger off the trigger and then bring the gun up, prep the trigger. Then the next one would be a left hand transfer presentation. You can do this one of two ways. One, you can do the same thing as what you just did, but do it left handed. The other one would be freestyle and then freestyle, finger off the trigger, transfer to left hand, finger off the trigger, sights, finger on the trigger. I think it's both of them. I call this left hand transfer presentation because I think that is more important. Being able to do this, finger off, transfer, finger on. I think that's a very important thing to learn. So, success finding sights left hand only in the A zone, also doing it safely without dropping the gun, getting your fingers out of the trigger and on the trigger accordingly. Next one, present reload transition. This is going to assume you have two targets. You can do it at one target. Obviously, you won't be transitioning. You can transition from like body, reload, head, but I would prefer you have two targets side by side and do. So we're going to do present, reload, transition to the other target, and then just do that back and forth. So success is so you go A zone, the gun leaves the A zone, you perform a reload. I'm doing an imaginary reload. Here we go. Perform a reload, then you go A zone to the next target. Very self-explanatory. Present, reload, transition. And the reload and the transition should happen at the same time. Trigger control at speed. I've linked a video in there that explains it a little bit better. I'm going to make a separate video about misdiagnosis of trigger pull issues. A lot of people say trigger pull issues when they're not trigger pull issues. But at this level, you probably do have real trigger pull issues, and you can fix them pretty easily by doing trigger control at speed, which is basically aiming at a target and then pulling the trigger as hard as you can, like finger off the trigger. You can start prepped. They talk about it in the video, but it's basically one of the things that will immediately fix your trigger pull is not looking at the dot. If you're staring at a spot, your brain knows to hold the sights or the red dot on that spot. The gun will move less. If you're looking at the dot, it doesn't have anywhere to stabilize itself in space because you're not telling it where you want it. So of course it's going to move more. So there's a good little tip for you. Then last one, this is just a little fun one, dot torture target. Literally just download, print off the target, and do what it says. It has instructions on it. Just kind of do what you're just gonna do one repetition 4 times, or like one time through one set, whatever. Do it once, rest 4 times, and it's got instructions on there. It's just gonna kind of test everything that you do. I think it talks about draws in there. Instead of drawing, just do a presentation. Just the way that it's just going to kind of test what you've been doing here. Don't beat yourself up if it isn't perfect every time. That's literally the point. If you could do it perfect every time, you wouldn't be watching my videos. You wouldn't be doing this. The only way to fail is to quit. Trigger pull is not important until you get to trigger control at speed, but I mean, you can, assuming you have a good sight picture. All of these drills can be done while moving. There's nothing wrong with taking a step in any direction. Like, if you have the room for it, go for it. I'd obviously learn how to do it standing still first. Once you get good at doing it standing still, no problem moving. And do it on big targets. Um, Most of my dry fires on big targets. I think that's the way to go. I highly recommend that. And I think it's easier to learn here and then scale to small ones than spending, like it's going to take you months to develop the level of skill on this target. It will take you weeks or days to develop on this target. Then you just slowly and incrementally down. And I think this ensures a trajectory of continued improvement. Whereas with this, you're gonna be down here forever. Then eventually it'll come up, but you'll probably quit before you start. Like, that's a tough one. I don't recommend that at all. So that is instructional video for my entry level dry fire. If you have any questions, give me a comment, or if you know me personally, just ask, and I will be more than happy to help you out.